Everything out of me. They gonna get a Super Bowl out of me. Believe that. Believe that. I'm a Raven. It's on. All year. Every year.
Welcome in, everyone. Today I have something a little bit different for you. As a longtime Ravens fan, I feel as though I appreciate what Lamar Jackson brings to not only the city of Baltimore, but football as a whole more than any fan from another fan base. From the Dilfer and Bowler years to the Flacco era, the Ravens have basically had their way set. You run the ball and you play great defense. But when Lamar became the starter, there seemed to be this previously unnoticed smog lifted from the fan base. We had become used to mediocrity and the mundane. So you can imagine 5 years later my utter disbelief and frustrations when so many openly doubted and debated Lamar Jackson's ability and place among the upper echelon of QBs in this league. So allow me to show you why Lamar is not just a top 15 or a top 10 quarterback in this league, but a top 5 who is going to be in the MVP voting year in and year out. So this is the premise of the video that I have for you today. Lamar Jackson has been statistically comparable with, and in some ways even better than, his elite-level QB peers, without an offensive coordinator who complements both aspects of Lamar as a dual-threat QB, and while lacking significant talent at the wide receiver position. So let me break this down for you in the most concise yet detailed way I can. In 2019, Greg Roman focused on, quote-unquote, maximizing Lamar's ability to run the ball, but in my opinion, this also significantly delayed his growth as a passer, as an unintended side effect with his offensive schemes being severely rudimentary and simple in their design. Basically, Roman didn't have the ability to improve Lamar as a passer because Roman wasn't good at developing any QB's passing ability that he worked with. The simple design and obvious tendencies of Roman's passing schemes and routes allowed defenses to better predict what our offense would do in certain alignments and with certain personnel packages. This in turn had a spiraling effect as it made Lamar's job harder by limiting the talent around him and also by going up against defenses that were more prepared for what he was going to do. Poor clock management and slow play calling also played a pivotal role in limiting any chance for audibles or disguises. With all these factors being considered, it paints an even more impressive picture, in my opinion, when looking at what Lamar was able to accomplish and how well he has competed in the modern football era despite having these disadvantages on his ability to succeed. Hey guys, real quick. If you're enjoying the video so far, go ahead and give it a like. And if you want more, you can head over to my channel and hit that subscribe button while you're there. Also, if you know anyone who is a Ravens fan that might enjoy this video, please share it with them. Alright. Let's get back to the video. So let's take a look at some of the examples of top-tier quarterbacks and the talent they work with. So Patrick Mahomes had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce for a while, and he still has Kelce. Josh Allen has Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. Joe Burrow has Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Now, I know some of you might say, Gabe Davis and T. Higgins are not elite talents, but they're certainly good. They would certainly be the number one on the Ravens team for most of Lamar's career, excluding this upcoming year. And I think you get the point, but I'm sure there's some of you that are out there saying, hey, he has Mark Andrews. And this is true, but allow me to explain why that's not enough. So Patrick Mahomes is an offensive player of the year, an MVP, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, and by having a top-tier wide receiver threat in Tyreek Hill and the top-tier pass-catching tight end in Travis Kelce, this alongside his incredible talent, alleviated a lot of the pressure on him. Having these two prominent threats on offense causes defenses to commit more resources and stretches them thinner. By the time Hill left for Miami, Mahomes had developed to the point of not needing a top-tier wide receiver, but was now able to elevate lesser talented guys around him, such as Juju Smith-Schuster, lesser talented than Tyreek Hill. This is why Roman hamstringing Lamar's passing ability has such a profound effect. Now let's take a look at how a quarterback looks without a top-tier threat at the wide receiver position. So this quarterback in 2019 went 10-6, had a 58.8% completion percentage, had 3,089 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 146 first downs, averaged 193 yards per game, was sacked 38 times, and had a QBR of 49.4. Now, let's add a legit top 10 wide receiver to that and see what we get. So the same quarterback, very next year in 2020, went 13-3, had a 69.2 completion percentage, threw for 4,544 passing yards, 37 touchdowns, 228 first downs, averaged 284 yards per game, was sacked 26 times, and had a QBR rating of 76.6. So that's 3 more wins, a 10.4% increase to his completion percentage, 1,455 more passing yards, over 1,500 of them to the new wide receiver, by the way, 17 more touchdowns, 82 more first downs, 91 more yards per game, and an increase of 27.2 to his overall QBR. So, I'll give a cookie to whoever can tell me who this is without looking it up. Go. Okay, not really, because it might be kind of obvious to some, but it's Josh Allen, with and without Stephon Diggs. So, with that being said, on screen now are some of Lamar's best and worst games. And I'm not going to read them off to you. I'll let you go ahead and do that yourself. You can even pause the video if necessary. I mainly wanted to point out some things that I found interesting. Both of the best games have less than 10 rushing attempts, and both of the worst games have over 10 rushing attempts. So even though the Ravens won both of the quote-unquote worst games, it was because Lamar had to put the whole team on his back in order to have them succeed. He had to go above and beyond, putting his body at risk, doing more to accomplish what others should also be able to do. I don't think I need to tell any other Ravens fans about how many yards after the catch the Ravens have in all of Lamar's career. Here's a hint for those of you who don't know. It's not a lot. Now, we can look at Mahomes, and the thing I find most interesting here is that just like Lamar, the rushing numbers tell us a good bit about how he was doing that day throwing the ball. So while he did have 5 attempts for 18 yards in his quote-unquote best game against the Steelers, with 6 touchdowns and no picks, I think you can go ahead and run around a little bit if you want. Right? His arm was threatening enough that his legs weren't doing too much. In the worst game, it seems like he needed to run around a bit to make more of those plays and have him succeed for his team. So lastly, we'll look at Joe Burrow's best and worst. Now, there doesn't seem to be anything to tell about these stats, and honestly, except for that Burrow struggles against smothering defenses, and that it's basically every QB except for Mahomes, I guess, I just wanted to put up Burrow's numbers for comparison's sake. I guess what you can take away from this is that just like with Lamar, Burrow's worst games are against the AFC North, which kind of just shows how these teams get to know their opposing quarterbacks that they play twice a year and play better at them. Or play better against them. But when I was looking over these stats, I got to thinking, is Joe Burrow really in a different class than Lamar? So I took a look at the numbers. Now, it would be unfair to stack up all of Lamar's career numbers to Joe's, as Lamar has been in the league for 2 years longer than him. So these stats will only come from the 3 years that they both were in the league. So this means it will not include Lamar's 2019 season. That seems fair, right? All right. So one of them is a thrower and the other one is a runner, right? That's how the joke goes. So let's look at how much better the thrower is at throwing, shall we? Well, the thrower has a career completion percentage of 68.2, while the runner has a percentage of 63.7. The thrower has an interception rate of 2%, while the runner has one of 2.3%. The thrower has an 82-yard throw as his longest, while the runner has one of 83. The thrower has 1,929 passing yards off of play action in the last 3 years. The runner has 2,412 passing yards off play action in the last 3 years. Joe Burrow's passer rating is 100.4, while Lamar's is 96.7. Now, Joe Burrow is undoubtedly one of the best throwers of the football in the game, but yet Lamar Jackson's not very far off, statistically speaking. Now, just to be fair, let's stack up how the thrower looks when he has to tuck in the ball and go for a run against one of the greatest dual threat quarterbacks ever. Again, we're using the same 3-year time span here. The thrower had 152 attempts, equaling 517 yards for 3.4 yards per carry, 56 first downs, and 10 touchdowns. The runner had 404 attempts, equaling 2,536 yards for 6.3 yards per attempt, 151 first downs, and 12 touchdowns. My point in this comparison, if it isn't clear, is to showcase what Lamar is capable of doing with the ball in his hands, no matter whether the play calls for him to throw or run. In the last 3 years, combining both Joe and Lamar's rushing and passing yards, the averages between them are as such. Joe's yards per game are at 292, Lamar's at 267. Now, for the last 2 years, Joe has had Jamar Chase, who has amassed 2,501 receiving yards, T. Higgins, who has 2,120 receiving yards, and Tyler Boyd, who has 1,590 receiving yards. Lamar, the last 2 years, has had Mark Andrews, who has amassed 2,208 receiving yards. Not all of these, of course, are from Lamar, and Marquise Brown, who had 1,008 receiving yards in 2021. Not all by Lamar. So, my aim in this is not to diminish the talents of any of these wide receivers, tight ends, nor the QBs. Again, even though Joe Burrow is rival of the Ravens as the Bengals quarterback, I have a big respect for him. He's an excellent quarterback. I'm simply attempting to show that if Lamar Jackson was not only throwing to an elite tight end, but also had an elite wide receiver, and was also being coached and playing for an offensive coordinator who actively promoted and challenged Lamar's growth as the dual threat quarterback that he is, Lamar would be unquestionably a top or even the top quarterback in the NFL. Now, having said all this, I believe this 2023 season with Todd Monken and with the talents of Odell Beckham, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and Mark Andrews, Lamar will show the rest of the league and all of the fans that he is indeed worthy of our praise. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. It took a while to gather all these stats, so I really would appreciate if you liked it to go ahead and give it a like. If you like what you see here and you want to know more about my thoughts and analysis going on now and through the season, you can head over to my channel and hit the subscribe button. I'll be putting out new videos every week that are NFL and Raven focused, so if that sounds interesting to you, I'd appreciate the support. Alright, have a good one, guys. Bye.